that's a good news part of the story. In terms of buildings, that's obviously a big focus of attention at the moment. There are visual examinations going across the city, looking at those buildings. There are one or two buildings for which the advice of the building owners that they need to get more and a closer examination. Those engineers will have to go through and have a good look at those buildings and make sure they get ticked off. So there are one or two buildings where the advice is that people go back and reoccupy those buildings. But again, for the most part, the buildings look like they've come through extremely well indeed. So I think the big issues really are communication to Wellingtonians in particular, that they need to continue to keep up that level of preparedness, making sure that they keep an eye out for their neighbours, those sorts of issues. But secondly, I think it really is just trying to give them some reassurance and comfort that the support is there for them if they need it. We shouldn't underestimate the impact that emotional it has on families. It's a very traumatic time. People are very fearful of the unknown, and we understand and completely appreciate that as much as we possibly can to give them the support. EQC will be able to take their phone calls as they examine their own damage. And just as a way of a reminder, EQC covers the first $20,000 of contents damage that a property might suffer, first $100,000 of property damage and land damage. So people will have a chance over time to assess what damage has taken place in the home, and obviously to launch those claims. There's no time limit on that. They've got some time to go away and look at that. But I think, the one other point I'd make is that while there will always be similarities drawn with Christchurch, it's really important that people understand that every earthquake has different characteristics, and these are very different in Wellington. So in Christchurch, when the big earthquake took place in February, what we saw was a very shallow earthquake where the epicenter was largely in the centre of the CBD, where there was a lot of vertical movement up. So it's a very powerful earthquake, essentially centred in the heart of the CBD. This is quite different. The epicenter obviously is sitting a long way away. It's much deeper, and movements more being lateral and vertical. So I understand the anxiety that you feel and nervousness, but there are quite different characteristics here. So essentially we'll continue to monitor the situation. I've thanked the mayors and obviously the civil defence and emergency services for what they've done, and made it pleased and obviously the government will be there to provide any other support if that is required. We'll just continue to monitor the situation.
We have had considerable levels of help around the country, and we are hoping to finish the visual inspections today. Trains look
1 o'clock. We're trying to get the trains on at 1 o'clock for half-hour services.
But we're still encouraging people not to come back into the CBD today and to contact their employers to make their plans for the rest of the week.
On the EQC, is the money there to pay out claims?
Well, essentially the way EQC is funded is it comes off your fire insurance. There's a levy that comes off fire insurance, and that fund was essentially, as I understand it, run down to sort of zero as opposed to as a result of the claims as part of the Christchurch earthquake. But in reality, the government just tops that fund up as and when it's required. So there won't be anybody that's suffered damage where there's a legitimate claim against EQC here in Wellington or the wider region that won't be paid out. It'll just be a matter of where those resources come from, and essentially have to be appropriation from the Crown. But at a very top level sort of assessment so far, the advice that we've just had in the briefing is that it doesn't look as if the damage is tremendously significant. It's not a major financial event at this point.
Do you think this is because Wellington has higher building standards than any other city in the country?
Well, I think it certainly helps. I mean, others can speak to the structural nature here, but because Wellington has always been a place where there's perceived higher risk than the rest of the country, that building code is higher here. People have built to that code. There's been a lot of strengthening work done in recent times, a lot of new buildings. So there's certainly buildings that are going to require further examination, and some where people can sometimes be moving out, but for the most part, outside of broken glass and a little bit of superficial damage, generally speaking, it's in the country very well from what we can see.
So you said that the funded is potentially nothing gets run dry, and the government will then back up what's necessary, back up what's necessary. Where will that money come from?
Well, ultimately, with government, we just have to make an appropriation for that. At this stage, nothing. essentially, we have an obligation under EQC and through the coverage that people get from the government to honour that obligation.
How is that going to affect your deals when you're returning to service?
I'll wait for me to tell you. There aren't indications that that is something that would be extremely material in the context of government's budget.
Have you had an update on damage to the behind the Parliament building?
I haven't had an update. I know that we had looked through it, there was a little bit of damage.
There was a little bit of damage due on the Prime Minister, but I'm not aware of anything significant that's been found since.
So you've no idea, you can't put a figure on how much the ground water was injected? You've no idea whatsoever?
No, but I mean, just at a sort of top line sort of level, it was pretty clear when we looked at the earthquakes that took place in Christchurch, the visible damage here was very significant. I hope that's not the case here in Wellington. At this point, it's quite different circumstances.
And have you talked to Joe Bradley? Have you ever written to him?
I was what I will do.
Where were you when the quake happened?
Last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. I was at home actually.
Yeah.
Got back right. So started getting a few sort of calls and text messages. But it's obviously very alarming. I mean, this is 6.5. That's a big earthquake under any circumstances. As say the characteristics are different from Christchurch, but long in nature. And the one thing I think we have much greater appreciation of, and no one can very time obviously, but because New Zealanders have lived through the impacts of Christchurch, is that this is an ongoing nature. And I think that's the one thing that we saw in Christchurch was that just the relentless aftershocks were things that really drained people's energy, and it builds up a fear factor because they're truthfully frightened of the unknown, and that is totally understandable. What we can do is make sure we give them support, particularly if they live alone or they're on their own, or maybe they're older. You'll see a lot of people that will feel genuinely very nervous and agitated, and that's totally understandable. We need to give them that support.
How did you know about it?
My press secretary rang me the first thing that actually happened, and then from then, as I say, there was a sort of flood of messages and self-defence people, and the unit that we did give them contact straight away.
What about government departments? Any update there? I mean, like operational, are they going to be up and running this week or what?
I don't have any data on that.
Those buildings, for the most part, are often relatively new buildings, so they're in good shape. I would say
The warning, though, for people to stay at home, does that extend to government departments?
yes, I mean, there's some people in the hive at the moment, even the skeleton staff, quite a number of people just logistically can't get to work because, train bus services. But also, anyway, we need to give the civil defence people and the emergency services the opportunity to do the clean-up. Otherwise, we just get in their way, and they need to structurally look at those buildings. They need to assess the damage to footpaths and roads. They need to get a good look at the masonry. We know in Christchurch, when it was the earthquake, actually what claimed 40, I think, 185 miles was full of masonry. So it's something we have to take very seriously, and I think we can do it.
I think we have a report from the building inspectors just before we came over here, and the assessment so far is that the damage appears to be superficial damage only, but we've got to put people's safety first, so we're not encouraging people to come into the CBD today.
The Prime Minister talked about 1 or 2 buildings. Can you be more specific about those ones?
At the moment, we've been doing the visual external inspections. It's up to building owners themselves to do the internal ones. Wellington City Council's examined ours, and we do have some sprinkler water issues, so that we're not putting people back into our administration building again. We're hoping that that will be either tomorrow or the day after. But we do have a